I used to run to my brother when I had nightmares. He was the only one who could calm me down. A hand on my back, a soft, "You're safe now." To me, he was everything good in the world. Brave, kind, protective. The one person I never questioned. Until the night I stopped running to him and started running from him. I haven't talked about this before, not to my friends, not even to my therapist. But lately, I've been seeing stories online, and something inside me cracked open. If you've ever felt like your silence was protecting the wrong person, if your childhood doesn't feel like a memory, but a locked box you're afraid to open, then maybe you'll understand. And if you're still here, listening, like and subscribe, not for me, but because the more people talk, the harder it is for these things to stay hidden. We looked like the perfect family. People always said we were tight-knit. My brother was the golden child, captain of everything, charming, the one who helped neighbors carry groceries and never forgot to open the door for our mom. I adored him. I copied him. He taught me how to ride a bike, defended me at school, held my hand when our dog died. He was the only one who noticed when I cried quietly at dinner. Everyone said, "He'll always protect you." And I believed that with my whole heart. But what they didn't see was the shift. It started subtly. He got quieter, more controlling. He hated when I closed my door, said it made him anxious. Sometimes he'd walk in without knocking, laugh it off and say, "It's just me. Don't freak out." I wanted to think I was imagining things, because admitting otherwise meant destroying the only person who ever made me feel safe. There was this one night, I was around 13, when I woke up in the dark, not because of a nightmare, but because I felt watched. I remember lying still, holding my breath, pretending to sleep, like maybe if I didn't move, whatever was wrong would pass. The next morning, I found my bedroom door slightly open. I told myself it must have been the wind. But we didn't have windows open, and I had locked that door before I fell asleep. That was the night I started sleeping with a chair against the door, and the night I stopped calling him my safe place, a sorapash. After that, I changed, quietly, gradually. I stopped hugging him, flinched when he came near. My parents asked if something was wrong, but when I said I don't want to be alone with him, they just laughed. "Don't be so sensitive," my mom said. "He's your brother." But I wasn't being sensitive. I was trying to breathe through a kind of fear I didn't have the words for. There was a holiday party that year. We had cousins over, neighbors, music. I stayed in the corner most of the night, pretending to have a stomachache. But I watched him, my brother, laughing, passing out gifts, making everyone feel loved. Everyone but me. Later that evening, he came into the kitchen while I was rinsing my plate. No one else was there. He stood too close, asked why I was acting cold. I shrugged, told him I was tired, and he leaned in and whispered, "You're lucky no one else sees how ungrateful you are." That sentence stuck in my throat for weeks. I didn't know if he meant it as a joke. I didn't know if it was a threat. But it was the first time I realized something inside him had changed. Or maybe it was always there. And I was finally old enough to feel it. I told my mom what he said. She told me to stop stirring drama. "You know how close you two used to be." Used to be? That was the part she never said out loud, but I heard it. From then on, I avoided being home alone. Stayed after school. Took the long route walking back. I even joined a club I didn't care about, just to have an excuse to be out late. I didn't want to accuse him. I just wanted space. But even that made me difficult. At some point, I stopped trying to explain myself. It was easier to be the strange, moody daughter than the one who saw the family's favorite in a different light. But the silence was killing me. And it still does. Sometimes. When I see families online saying siblings are forever. Because mine was, until he wasn't. It took me 3 years to say anything out loud. Not to accuse, Not to expose, just to ask a question. Has he ever made you feel unsafe? I said it to my cousin one afternoon, during a walk, voice trembling behind a forced smile. She looked at me like I had slapped her, and then softly, "You too?" That was the first time I felt both seen and sick, because that meant it wasn't just me. She didn't say much, just that when she was 12, she locked herself in a bathroom during a sleepover at our place, that he knocked and then said, "No one's going to believe you if you say anything." I didn't sleep that night, not because of what happened to me, but because I realized what he's done to others. I tried to tell my mom. I picked the words carefully, left the worst parts out, focused on emotions, patterns, fear. She stared at me like I was a stranger, said nothing for what felt like an hour. Then, "You were always jealous of how close we were." I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream. What about what he said? What about how I changed? But all I got back was, "You're digging up poison. Let it go." I walked out of that kitchen shaking. The next day, my dad called, said he didn't want to choose sides, but this kind of accusation can ruin lives, like mine wasn't already in pieces. I started keeping distance. Holidays, birthdays, anything that involved him, I skipped. They said I was being cruel, said he's trying, that he misses you. But every time I saw his name on my phone, my stomach knotted. Because I knew, no matter how polite, how smiling, how grown up he seemed now, I couldn't unsee what he did. And worse, I couldn't forget how easily everyone else did. I left home as soon as I could. College was my escape plan. New city, new name on the dorm door. For the first time, I had a lock that no one else had a key to. But even in my new freedom, the echoes followed. I had trouble with touch, avoided hugs, jumped when someone walked behind me too quietly. In relationships, I flinched when hands moved too fast, even in kindness, and I never told anyone why. When people asked about my family, I smiled and said, "We're not that close." That was easier than explaining what happens when trust rots from the inside out. A few years later, I was invited to a family reunion. I said no, of course, but the text didn't stop. One message stood out. It was from him. "You should come. I've changed. I've been through therapy. I think we should talk." And for a second, I mean it, just a second, I wondered if maybe he had changed. But then I remembered his last words to me before I left home. "No one's going to believe you. They love me more." And he wasn't wrong. The scariest part wasn't what he did back then. It's how normal he looks now. I didn't reply to his message. Instead, I blocked the number. Then I cried in the shower like I was 16 again, hiding the sound behind the water. But what hurt more was when my mother called 3 days later, not to ask if I was okay, not to check in. She said, "I don't know what's gotten into you. He's really trying. Stop punishing him." Punishing him? For what? Surviving? I sat on the floor of my apartment for hours that night. Not because I was unsure, but because I realized that even if I had video proof, they'd still find a way to blame me. Because some people would rather hold on to the illusion of a perfect family than face the truth that it was built on silence. I didn't go to the reunion, but I did write everything down. Not just the memories, the feelings, the weight, the smells, the silences, the sound of the door creaking at night, the specific way he used to whisper my name when no one else was around, and I burned it. All of it. Not as a ritual, not for revenge, but because I needed the flames more than I needed the words. Then I started therapy, for real this time. And when my therapist asked, "What do you want from all this?" I didn't say justice or apologies. I said, "I want to stop looking over my shoulder in my own life." He still sends me birthday messages, and every time I delete them without opening, because no one gets to act like nothing happened, especially when they were the reason everything changed. She never admitted it. He never confessed, but I stopped waiting for that. Because sometimes survival isn't about being heard. It's about finally listening to yourself and believing what you knew all along. I don't know if healing ever really happens. Maybe it's not a destination. Maybe it's just learning how to live with the unanswered questions and choosing every day not to let them define who you are. I'm not whole, but I'm no longer hiding. And that for now is enough. Have you ever protected someone who didn't deserve it just because they were family? If you had to choose between peace and truth, which would you pick?